So problem number 6 is really an algebra review, like Algebra 1 review, but we did cover an Algebra 2. You used it quite extensively in pre-calculus and calculus too, but when you look at this problem, what's wrong with it? What do you notice? There's a rule that that's being broken that we don't like. Does anybody know? We don't like to have square roots in the bottom of a fraction. So to get rid of them, we normally multiply by the square root, but because this is a binomial, in other words, there's two terms, I have to multiply by what we call the conjugate. So the conjugate is the same numbers and the same terms. We just change the value. So if I have a plus the square root of b, the conjugate of that is a minus the square root of b. So in this case, I'm going to say 2 minus the square root of 3. And whatever I do on the bottom, I also have to do to the top. So on the top of this thing, I'm just going to have 2 times the quantity 2 minus the square root of 3. We'll distribute that 2 through in a second. But remember, the reason we multiply by the conjugate, I need to recalibrate this tablet. If I say 2 plus the square root of 3 and 2 minus the square root of 3, the conjugate does an interesting thing. 2 times 2 is just 4. The square root of 3 times 2 is just positive 2 root 3. But here when I say 2 times a negative root 3, I get negative 2 root 3. And then negative root 3 times positive root 3 is just a negative 3. So when we multiply by the conjugate, this term will cancel with this term. And then we just have to add up these two terms. In other words, I'm going to say 4 minus 3. So this whole thing changes to 1. Right? So then what I need to do is I'm going to multiply the 2 through the parentheses, right? And so 2 times 2 is 4. Then 2 times negative root 3 is 2 root 3 divided by 1. Hey, guess what? That is the answer. So see how that whole thing cleans up nice? It doesn't always do it that way, but usually they have these problems rigged up to where they clean up nice. Okay, I'll leave that up there for a second for you guys to write it down.